It's certainly safe to say these past 12 months have been a challenging time for everyone. No more so than football fans who dedicate their lives travelling home and away, far and from, to watch their favourite football team play football. Today we get the opportunity to sit down with two massive lifelong Celtic supporters, Simon Beans from Glasgow and Tyrone from Ireland, where they share their story about how they've been dealing with lockdown so far and how the last year has affected them.
It's been a tough time for everyone at the moment over these last 12 months due to COVID. And Tyrone, I wanted to come to you first. Obviously, you're a massive Celtic fan, and over the last few years now, since you've got older, you've got the chance to go over the Celtic games a lot more. Your life is, you could definitely say, impacted like everyone else. How does it affect you now that you can't travel the games anymore?
It's annoying because it's sort of like go a couple of times a season, so it's something to look forward to and something to save up to as well. So you're sitting there sort of like working, planning out when to go, and you're just like every weekend you're looking forward to the game, and it's just like getting over, and even like just like meeting up, like going to like the local supporters club bar, meeting up with like friends in it, which you can't do now. Like you're watching games at home, and it is difficult. Like I think it's difficult for all fans.
Tyrone, a young Celtic fan from the north of Ireland, intrigued me in many ways. One being because he was the same age as me and had the same interests. Like me, he also comes from Ireland, and because of that, getting over to games isn't easy as people who live in Scotland, particularly Glasgow. I wanted to find out what makes going over to games so special and how not getting to any games in the past 12 months has affected him personally. My next guest I had on was a good friend of mine, Simon Beans from Glasgow. I wanted to get his thoughts on not being able to go to games. Unlike me and Tyrone, Beans lives in Glasgow, so going to Celtic games isn't just a hobby for him, it's a lifestyle. It is a contrast between me and Tyrone, and his answer will be similar, but also fairly different.
And Beans, coming to you now, obviously from Glasgow, it's you're a lot more as a regular when it comes to going to Celtic games. How many games would you kind of go to a season?
I got the majority of the home games and get to as many away games as I can, and then obviously the European games you want to get to them as well. So I'd say as many as I can, but more often than not.
And like with Tyrone, you probably met a lot of people through football and Twitter, etc. And do you get supporters bust going to these games?
I'm quite close to the city centre, so I usually make my own way. If I'm going away games, I'll usually go with my mates and we'll jump in the car and get a wee drink or something on the way up or whatever. So if it's a long journey, I'll do that. But if it's, most of them are relatively quite close, so I'll just jump in that. Or if it's through, somewhere, jump on the train, Motherwell or Edinburgh or something, just get the train through to the game.
And I know for me and Tyrone, when we do go to Celtic games, it's almost like a full day out because you're getting up at 5 a.m. to get a plane over to Glasgow for a 3 o'clock kickoff, and then you mightn't be home till like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So now that you don't have that in your life anymore, is it kind of like you need to fill that void with something else? And what is that?
Aye, mate, definitely. Without the football, it's kind of like disabled a part of the community that runs through your life, and it's difficult because you don't really appreciate it. That just the simple things, like one of my best mates, really. I used to, not every game, but most games, he'd either run me home after the game or we'd go for a pint after the game, and I not even really thought of it until just now, and I've didn't even realise how much I actually used to see him. And obviously when you grow up and stuff, you don't see your mates as often, but getting to the football and seeing them, or even as you'd mentioned earlier, like people you've met off Twitter and stuff, and there's a lot of great people you meet through the football, and not seeing those people anymore. And obviously it's not as if you're just because the football's not on, you're not going to speak to them anymore. You still have some communication, and you still have that kind of community spirit, but without the fun times and going and having an experience together, and you're like, oh, I remember that game, I remember the other week when we were at that, I remember last year at St Mirren at home, but we went to the pub after it was a great time and stuff, or whatever it was. So it's just not the same.
It was fascinating answer from Beans. As he said, it's more than just going to watch a football game. You're gathering with friends and socialising with new people all the time. I found interesting in what he's doing now instead of going to the football. Both men gave me a fairly similar answer. Both miss going to the football and socialising with their friends. As someone who also got to go to about 3 or 4 games a season, I can feel their pain. When the news came out in March of last year about a 3-week shutdown, it felt like a prison sentence not being able to go to the football. Never mind what was about to follow. I would also say that this has given me time to reflect. I look back and reminisce on the great moments I've had at the football, and some spectacular countries I've seen and great people I've met. All of this through the football. With lockdown restrictions hopefully easing in the coming months, I can speak on behalf of every football fan that we're all hopeful of a safe return to stadiums can be allowed to football fans around Europe very soon.